The rain hit Zara's face like cold bullets as she watched her entire life being thrown onto the sidewalk. Her mattress landed with a wet thud, followed by her grandmother's medicine bottles that scattered and rolled into the gutter. The landlord, Mr. Johnson, stood in the doorway of the rundown apartment building, his arms crossed and his face showing no mercy. "Please, Mr. Johnson," Zara begged, her voice barely heard over the storm. "My grandmother can't be out in this weather. She's sick. Just give me one more week." "You've had 3 weeks already, girl," he said, shaking his head. "I got bills to pay too. You owe me 2 months' rent plus late fees. That's $1,800 you don't have." Zara felt her world crumbling around her. She looked at her grandmother, Mrs. Williams, who sat in her wheelchair by the building entrance, coughing and shivering. The old woman's brown eyes were filled with worry, but she tried to smile at Zara to show she was okay. "Grandma, I'm so sorry," Zara whispered, kneeling beside the wheelchair and taking her grandmother's cold hands. "I thought the job at the cleaning company would pay more. I thought." "Baby girl, it's not your fault," her grandmother said softly. "We'll figure something out. We always do." But as Zara looked around at their soaked belongings scattered on the street, she didn't see how they could figure this out. She had exactly $3.27 in her pocket. Her car had broken down last month and she couldn't afford to fix it. Her phone service was cut off 2 days ago. She had no friends who could help because she spent all her time working. The other people on the street walked by quickly, avoiding eye contact. Some took pictures with their phones, but nobody stopped to help. Zara felt invisible and hopeless. She was a 25-year-old college graduate who couldn't even keep a roof over her sick grandmother's head. "You got until I come back from lunch to get your stuff off my property," Mr. Johnson said, walking away. "After that, I'm calling the city to clean it up." Zara sat down on the wet pavement next to her grandmother's wheelchair, not caring that her work uniform was getting ruined. She was supposed to be at the coffee shop in an hour, but how could she leave her grandmother alone on the street? How could she go to work when they had nowhere to live? "Zara, honey, don't cry," her grandmother said, reaching down to touch her granddaughter's wet hair. "Remember what I always tell you. When things look darkest, that's when the light is about to break through." But Zara couldn't stop the tears. For 5 years, since her parents died in a car accident, she had been taking care of her grandmother and trying to build a life. She worked at a coffee shop in the morning, cleaned offices in the afternoon, and waited tables at a diner at night. 7 days a week, no breaks, no vacation, no time for herself. And still it wasn't enough. The worst part wasn't even being homeless. The worst part was feeling like a failure. Her grandmother had raised her with so much love and hope. She had always believed Zara would do great things. And here Zara was, not even able to provide basic shelter. "I should have never quit my second cleaning job," Zara said, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "I should have found a way to work more hours." "Baby, you're already working yourself to death," her grandmother replied. 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's not living, that's just surviving." A police car drove slowly down the street, and Zara felt panic rise in her chest. What if they arrested her for loitering? What if they took her grandmother to some terrible city shelter? She had heard stories about those places, and her grandmother was too sick and fragile for that kind of environment. "We need to move our stuff," Zara said, standing up quickly. "Maybe we can find somewhere dry to wait until I figure out what to do." She started gathering their wet belongings, her hands shaking from cold and fear. Her grandmother's medications were scattered everywhere, some of the bottles cracked and empty. Those pills cost more than their rent, and without insurance, Zara couldn't afford to replace them. As she picked up a soggy photo of her parents' wedding day, Zara felt something break inside her chest. This photo was one of the few things she had left of them. Now it was ruined just like everything else in her life. The rain kept falling and Zara kept moving their things piece by piece, trying to find somewhere safe and dry. But in that moment, sitting on the street with everything she owned scattered around her, Zara felt more alone and scared than she had ever felt in her entire life. The alarm clock buzzed at 4:30 a.m., jolting Zara awake from the uncomfortable sleep she had managed on the narrow cot at the homeless shelter. Her grandmother was still sleeping in the bed next to her, breathing slowly but steadily. At least she was warm and safe for now. Zara quietly gathered her coffee shop uniform and headed to the shared bathroom. In the cracked mirror, she saw dark circles under her brown eyes and exhaustion written across her face. But she forced a smile and practiced her cheerful customer service voice. "Good morning. What can I get started for you today?" She needed this job. All 3 of her jobs, actually. After 2 weeks at the shelter, she had saved enough for a security deposit on a tiny studio apartment. It wasn't much, but it had running water and a door that locked. Most importantly, it would give her grandmother privacy and dignity. The morning shift at Sunrise Coffee started at 6 a.m. Zara arrived 15 minutes early as she always did, and began setting up the machines. Her manager, Mrs. Peterson, was a kind woman who had been flexible about Zara's schedule. "Morning, Zara," Mrs. Peterson said, unlocking the register. "How's your grandmother doing?" "She's getting better, thank you for asking," Zara replied, tying her apron. The doctor at the free clinic said her cough should improve with the new medicine. The medicine that cost $40 she didn't have, but Mrs. Peterson didn't need to know that detail. The morning rush began at 7 a.m. sharp. Business people in expensive suits ordered complicated drinks while checking their phones. College students bought cheap coffee and sat for hours with their laptops. Regular customers who knew Zara by name and always left small tips that made a huge difference. "The usual?" Zara asked Mr. Thompson, a retired teacher who came in every day at 8:15. "You know it," he smiled. "Large black coffee and a blueberry muffin. How are you holding up, young lady?" "I'm doing fine, thank you," Zara said, pouring his coffee. Mr. Thompson always asked how she was doing and she always gave the same answer. She couldn't afford to show weakness or ask for help. Too many people depended on her staying strong. At 11 a.m. her coffee shop shift ended, and Zara rushed to catch the bus to downtown. Her afternoon job was cleaning offices in a tall glass building. The work was hard on her back and knees, but it paid better than the coffee shop. She cleaned 23 offices, 4 bathrooms and 2 conference rooms every day. While she worked, she listened to free audiobooks from the library on old headphones. Today she was listening to a business book about financial planning. Not that she had any money to plan with, but she liked learning about how successful people manage their lives. The office workers who stayed late were usually polite to her. Some even said thank you when she emptied their trash cans. But Zara always felt invisible in their world of expensive clothes and important meetings. She wondered what it would feel like to have a job where people knew her name and valued her ideas. At 3 p.m., she finished cleaning and caught another bus to her evening job at Mike's Diner. This was the hardest shift because her feet already hurt from standing all day, but the dinner crowd left better tips than the coffee shop customers. "Table 6 needs refills," called Sarah, the other waitress working the evening shift. "And the man at table 2 wants extra ketchup." Zara grabbed the coffee pot and made her rounds. Table 6 was a family celebrating their daughter's birthday. The little girl, maybe 8 years old, smiled at Zara and said, "Thank you, pretty lady." "You're very welcome, sweetheart," Zara replied, feeling her first genuine smile of the day. "Happy birthday." Table 2 was a construction worker who had been coming to the diner for months. He always sat alone, ordered the same meal and left exactly 15% tip. Not generous but reliable. "How's your grandmother, Zara?" he asked as she refilled his coffee. "She's doing better, thanks for asking, Carlos." By 9 p.m., the dinner rush was over, and Zara began cleaning tables and setting up for the next day. Her feet felt like they were on fire, and her lower back ached from bending over to wipe tables. But she had made $38 in tips today, which was enough to buy her grandmother's medicine and have a little left over for groceries. The bus ride home to the shelter was quiet. Zara counted her tip money twice to make sure she hadn't lost any. $43 total for the day. It wasn't much, but it was progress. Every dollar brought her closer to getting her grandmother out of the shelter and into their own place. When she arrived at the shelter at 10:30 p.m., her grandmother was awake, reading a library book under the dim light. "How was your day, baby girl?" her grandmother asked. "Good day," Zara said, sitting on the edge of the cot. "I made enough for your medicine and some groceries. We're getting closer to having our own place." "I'm proud of you," her grandmother said, taking Zara's hand. "You work so hard. But don't forget to take care of yourself too." Zara nodded, but they both knew she couldn't afford to take care of herself right now. Every dollar went towards survival and their future apartment. There was no money for new shoes, even though hers had holes in the soles. No money for her own medicine when she got sick. No money for anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. As she lay down on the narrow cot, Zara thought about the business audiobook she had listened to while cleaning offices. The author talked about setting goals and working toward dreams. But what did you do when your only dream was basic survival? What did you do when working 3 jobs still wasn't enough to live with dignity? Tomorrow would be another 16-hour day, another chance to earn enough to keep going. Zara closed her eyes and tried to rest, knowing that 4:30 a.m. would come quickly. 3 weeks later, Zara finally had enough money saved for the studio apartment. She had signed the lease that morning and would move in over the weekend. For the first time in months, she felt a small spark of hope as she walked to her morning shift at Sunrise Coffee. The autumn air was crisp, and the leaves were turning beautiful shades of red and gold. Zara allowed herself to enjoy the short walk from the bus stop to the coffee shop. In just 2 days, her grandmother would have her own bed again, her own bathroom, her own space. As she approached the coffee shop, Zara noticed a man in a wheelchair positioned near the entrance. He appeared to be in his early 30s with dark hair and wearing worn clothes. His left leg was obviously injured, wrapped in bandages, and he had a small cardboard sign that read, "Please help, God bless." Zara had walked past many people asking for money during her years of struggling in the city. She usually had to keep walking because she barely had enough for herself and her grandmother. But today felt different. Today she had hope, and hope made her want to share whatever she could. She stopped in front of the man and looked at him carefully. He had kind eyes despite the obvious pain he was in. His clothes were clean but very old, and his wheelchair looked like it came from a hospital donation program. "Good morning," Zara said softly. The man looked up, surprised that someone had actually stopped to speak to him instead of just dropping money and walking away. "Good morning," he replied. His voice was gentle and educated, which seemed unusual given his circumstances. Zara reached into her pocket and pulled out her small collection of bills and coins. She had $7.50 to last until her next paycheck. But something about this man's situation touched her heart. Maybe it was because she knew what it felt like to be overlooked and forgotten. "I don't have much," Zara said, pulling out $3. "But I wanted to give you something." The man's eyes widened as he looked at the money in her hand, and then back at her face. "Are you sure? You look like you might need this yourself." Zara smiled at his concern for her welfare. When was the last time someone had worried about whether she could afford to give money away? "I'm sure," she said, placing the bills in his hand. "Everyone deserves kindness." "Thank you," the man said, his voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea how much this means to me." Zara was about to continue into the coffee shop when she remembered the lunch her grandmother had packed for her that morning. It was just a peanut butter sandwich and an apple, but it was food. "Wait," she said, reaching into her bag. "Are you hungry? I have a lunch I can share." The man stared at her for a long moment, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You would give me your lunch?" "I can buy something small at work," Zara said, holding out the brown paper bag. "You probably need it more than I do." "What's your name?" the man asked, accepting the bag with trembling hands. "Zara. Zara Williams." "Oh, my name is Ethan," he said. "Ethan Cross." "Nice to meet you, Ethan," Zara said, checking her watch. "I have to get to work, but I hope your day gets better." "Wait," Ethan called as she started to walk away. "Do you work here every morning?" "Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 11 a.m., Zara said. "Why?" Thank you, Zara. Really. You're an angel." Zara blushed at the compliment and hurried into the coffee shop. Through the window, she could see Ethan opening the lunch bag and examining the sandwich with careful attention. Something about his expression seemed strange, as if he was studying the food rather than just being grateful for it. "You're 3 minutes late," Mrs. Peterson said, but she was smiling. "Let me guess, you stopped to help someone again." "There's a man in a wheelchair outside," Zara explained, tying her apron. "He looked hungry. You gave him your lunch, didn't you?" Mrs. Peterson shook her head. "Zara, you're too generous for your own good. You need to eat too." "I'll be fine," Zara said, starting her opening routine. Besides, it felt good to help someone. Throughout her shift, Zara found herself glancing out the window at Ethan. He sat quietly, occasionally accepting money from passing pedestrians, but mostly just watching the street. Several times she caught him looking through the window at her, and he would smile and wave. During her break, Zara went outside to check on him. "How's the sandwich?" she asked. "Delicious," Ethan said. "Best peanut butter sandwich I've ever had." "Your grandmother made it?" Zara was surprised he had guessed that. "How did you know?" "The way it was wrapped, with extra care. And there's a note inside that says, 'Have a wonderful day, sweetheart.' Grandmothers write notes like that." "She's the best person I know," Zara said. "We're actually moving into our own apartment this weekend. We've been staying at a shelter, but things are finally getting better." Ethan's expression changed to something that looked like admiration mixed with sadness. "You've been homeless, and you still gave me money and food? Being in a tough situation doesn't mean you stop caring about other people," Zara said. "Actually, I think it makes you care more. You understand what it feels like to need help." "That's a beautiful way to look at life," Ethan said quietly. "Most people aren't like you, Zara." I think most people are good, Zara replied. They just get scared or busy or forget to pay attention to each other. When Zara's break ended, she went back inside, but she couldn't stop thinking about her conversation with Ethan. There was something about him that didn't quite fit with his appearance. The way he spoke was too educated, too refined. His concern for her welfare seemed genuine, but also somehow protective, as if he had the power to actually help her if she needed it. But Zara dismissed these thoughts as wishful thinking. She had learned not to expect rescue or salvation from anyone. The only person she could depend on was herself, and that had to be enough. Over the next week, Zara developed a routine of greeting Ethan each morning before work. She couldn't afford to give him money every day, but she always stopped to say hello and ask how he was doing. Sometimes she brought him coffee that was slightly old from the shop, or a pastry that was going to be thrown away. Ethan seemed to appreciate the conversation as much as the food. He was intelligent and well-spoken, with opinions about books, current events, and philosophy that surprised Zara. When she mentioned the audiobooks she listened to while cleaning offices, his eyes lit up with interest. "What are you listening to now?" he asked on Thursday morning. "A book about small business management," Zara said. "I know it's silly since I don't have money to start a business, but I like learning about it anyway." "It's not silly at all," Ethan said firmly. "Education is never wasted. What kind of business would you want to start?" Zara hesitated, embarrassed to share her dreams with someone who was clearly struggling more than she was. But something about Ethan's genuine interest made her want to open up. "I'd love to open a community center," she said. "Somewhere people could get job training, help with their resumes, maybe take classes. There are so many people who just need a chance and some support." "That's a wonderful idea," Ethan said. "The world needs more people like you, Zara." That afternoon, when Zara arrived at her cleaning job, her supervisor pulled her aside. "Zara, I have some good news," Mr. Davis said. "One of our clients specifically requested you for some extra work. It's a big office building downtown and they want deep cleaning done on weekends. The pay is double your normal rate." Zara's heart jumped. Double pay would mean she could buy her grandmother new clothes and maybe even save a little money for emergencies. "Did they say why they requested me specifically?" Zara asked. "They heard you do excellent work and you're very trustworthy," Mr. Davis said. "Can you start this Saturday?" "Absolutely," Zara said. "Thank you so much for recommending me." But as she rode the bus to the diner that evening, Zara wondered how a client she had never met could have heard about her work quality. She was careful and thorough, but she had never interacted directly with the people who owned the buildings she cleaned. At the diner, another strange thing happened. A well-dressed woman Zara had never seen before left a $50 tip on a $12 meal. When Zara tried to tell her there had been a mistake, the woman smiled and said, "No mistake. You deserve it." "But why?" Zara asked, confused. "You just do," the woman said, and left before Zara could ask any more questions. Mike, the diner owner, was as puzzled as Zara. "In 20 years of running this place, I've never seen anything like that," he said. $50 on a $12 check? She must have really liked your service." But Zara had barely spoken to the woman beyond taking her order. It didn't make sense. Friday morning brought another surprise. When Zara arrived at Sunrise Coffee, Mrs. Peterson handed her an envelope. "This came for you yesterday," she said. "Someone dropped it off and said to make sure you got it." Inside the envelope was a grocery store gift card for $100 and a note that said, "For your grandmother's medicine and some healthy food. You deserve good things." Zara stared at the gift card in disbelief. "Mrs. Peterson, did you see who dropped this off?" "I was in the back doing inventory," Mrs. Peterson said. "Sarah was working the counter, but she said it was just someone in a delivery uniform. Didn't get a good look at them." Zara's hands were shaking as she held the gift card. $100 would buy her grandmother's medicine for 2 months and leave enough for good food. But who would do something like this for her? And how did they know about her grandmother's medical needs? When she greeted Ethan that morning, she was still thinking about the mysterious gifts. "You look happy today," Ethan observed. "I'm confused but grateful," Zara said, and told him about the extra work, the large tip, and the gift card. Ethan listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. "Sometimes good things happen to good people," he said. "Maybe the universe is balancing out all the hard work you do." "Do you believe in that?" Zara asked. "That good deeds come back to you?" "I believe that kindness has power," Ethan said. "And I believe that you, Zara Williams, have more kindness in your heart than anyone I've ever met." Zara blushed at the compliment. "You're very sweet, Ethan. I hope things get better for you too." "They already are," he said, looking directly into her eyes. Meeting you has made them better." There was something in his voice that made Zara's heart skip a beat. She had been so focused on survival that she hadn't thought about romance or relationships in years. But the way Ethan looked at her, with such warmth and admiration, made her remember that she was still a young woman with feelings and dreams beyond just paying rent. "I should get to work," she said, suddenly shy. "Zara," Ethan called as she walked toward the coffee shop door. "Be careful with that extra cleaning job. Make sure you're safe in those empty buildings." His concern touched her, but it also seemed oddly specific. How did he know she would be alone in empty buildings? She hadn't mentioned that detail. "I will," she said. "Thank you for caring." As Zara started her shift, she couldn't shake the feeling that the strange coincidences and Ethan's protective comments were somehow connected. But that was impossible, wasn't it? He was homeless and disabled, sitting outside the coffee shop every day. What connection could he possibly have to her mysterious good fortune? Still, as she worked through the morning rush, Zara found herself glancing out the window at Ethan more often than usual, wondering if there was more to him than met the eye. The weekend cleaning job turned out to be at Cross Industries, one of the most prestigious office buildings in the city. Zara had seen the gleaming 40-story tower from the bus many times but never imagined she would be inside it. The security guard, an older man named Frank, let her in through a side entrance at 6 a.m. Saturday morning. "You'll be working on floors 30 through 35, Frank explained as they rode the elevator up. "Executive offices. They want everything perfect for some important meetings next week." "Have you worked here long?" Zara asked, trying to make conversation. 15 years, Frank said. "Good company to work for. The CEO really cares about his employees. Gives out bonuses, pays for their kids' college, stuff like that. Not many bosses like him." The elevator opened onto the 30th floor and Zara gasped. She had never seen offices this beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning views of the city. The furniture was elegant and expensive-looking. Fresh flowers sat on reception desks, and original artwork hung on the walls. "Pretty fancy, huh?" Frank said. "The CEO's office is on the 35th floor. They say it's like a palace up there." As Frank showed her where the cleaning supplies were stored, Zara noticed something strange. On the reception desk of the 31st floor, there was a small framed photo that looked familiar. She moved closer and realized it was a picture of the coffee shop where she worked. "Frank, why would there be a picture of Sunrise Coffee in this office?" she asked. Frank looked at the photo and shrugged. "Beats me. Maybe someone really likes their coffee." But it seemed like more than that to Zara. Why would an executive at Cross Industries have a framed photo of a small neighborhood coffee shop? As she worked through the morning, Zara noticed other odd details. In one office, there was a newspaper article about homeless shelters pinned to a bulletin board. In another, she found a business card for Mike's Diner tucked into a desk organizer. These weren't accidents or coincidences. Someone in this building was very interested in the places where she worked. On the 34th floor, Zara found something that made her heart race. Sitting on a desk was a copy of the audiobook she had mentioned to Ethan, the one about small business management. It was the exact same edition she had been listening to, with notes written in the margins about community centers and helping people. Her hands trembled as she picked up the book and flipped through it. The handwriting in the margins was neat and educated, just like Ethan's way of speaking. But that was impossible. Ethan was homeless and spent his days sitting outside the coffee shop. He couldn't possibly work in this building. Unless... Zara's mind raced with possibilities she didn't want to consider. What if Ethan wasn't who he claimed to be? What if the mysterious gifts and job opportunities weren't coincidences? What if someone had been watching her and helping her from behind the scenes? She thought about all the little details that hadn't quite made sense. Ethan's educated speech. His knowledge about business and books. His protective concern for her safety. His expensive-looking watch that he tried to hide under his sleeve. The watch. Zara suddenly remembered seeing him quickly pull his sleeve down when she had complimented him on it. He had said it was a gift from better times, but what if it wasn't from the past? What if it was from his present life, a life he was hiding from her? "Focus on your work," Zara told herself firmly. "You're letting your imagination run wild." But as she cleaned the executive bathrooms with their marble countertops and gold fixtures, she couldn't stop thinking about the evidence she had found. Someone in this building knew about her life in detail. Someone cared enough to help her anonymously. And someone had access to enough money to make significant changes in her circumstances. When she reached the 35th floor, Frank stopped her at the elevator. "Sorry, this floor is off limits today," he said. "CEO is working up there even on Saturday." Dedicated guy, never takes a break. What's he like? Zara asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. Mr. Cross? He's a good man but very private. Lost both his parents when he was young like you did. Maybe that's why he's so generous with people who are struggling. Zara felt a chill run down her spine. How did Frank know about her parents? She had never mentioned them to anyone at work except Mrs. Peterson, and only briefly. How do you know about my parents? She asked. Frank looked confused. Did I say something about your parents? I don't think maybe I'm mixing you up with someone else. Sorry, kid. But Zara could see in his eyes that he knew he had said too much. Someone had been talking about her personal life in this building. Someone knew her story and was taking a special interest in her situation. As she finished her work and prepared to leave, Zara made a decision. She was going to find out who was behind the mysterious help she had been receiving. And she was going to start by taking a much closer look at Ethan Cross, the homeless man who might not be as homeless as he appeared. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, and Zara wasn't sure she was ready for what she might discover. Monday morning, Zara approached the coffee shop with new eyes. She had spent the entire weekend thinking about the strange coincidences and the evidence she had found at Cross Industries. Now she was determined to get answers. Ethan was in his usual spot by the entrance, but today Zara noticed things she had missed before. His wheelchair, while old-looking, had high-quality components that would be expensive to replace. His clothes were worn but made from good fabric that had aged well. Most importantly, he was reading a Wall Street Journal, which seemed like an unusual choice for someone begging on the street. Good morning, Ethan, Zara said, stopping in front of him. Good morning, beautiful Zara, he replied, quickly folding the newspaper. How was your weekend? Interesting, Zara said, watching his face carefully. I worked at this amazing office building downtown. Cross Industries. Have you heard of it? For just a split second, Ethan's expression changed. It was barely noticeable, but Zara caught it. Surprise, followed by something that looked like panic, followed by a carefully composed neutral face. I think I've heard the name, he said casually. Big company, right? Very big, Zara said. They have 40 floors and beautiful offices. The CEO must be incredibly successful. I'm sure he works very hard, Ethan said, not meeting her eyes. Ethan, can I ask you something personal? Of course. What did you do before this? Zara gestured toward his wheelchair and the cardboard sign. Ethan was quiet for a long moment, and Zara could see him thinking carefully about his answer. I worked in business, he said finally. Corporate world. It wasn't very fulfilling. What kind of business? Management consulting, he said quickly. Boring stuff. Numbers and reports. But something about his answer felt rehearsed, like he had prepared this story in advance. Zara decided to test him. That's funny, she said. I was listening to this audiobook about business management, and I found the exact same book with handwritten notes at Cross Industries. The handwriting looked familiar. Ethan's face went pale. That's an interesting coincidence. Is it? Zara asked. Because I'm starting to think there are too many coincidences in my life lately. The extra work, the mysterious tips, the gift cards. It's like someone is watching out for me. Maybe you just deserve good things, Ethan said, but his voice sounded strained. Or maybe someone is helping me and doesn't want me to know about it, Zara said, sitting down on the bench next to his wheelchair. Someone who knows where I work, what I need, and has enough money to make a real difference. Ethan looked away, staring down the street as if he was looking for an escape route. Ethan, who are you really? Zara asked gently. I'm just a guy who sits outside your coffee shop, he said, but his voice was barely a whisper. A guy who reads the Wall Street Journal and wears an expensive watch and knows things about business that most homeless people wouldn't know. Ethan's hand automatically moved to his wrist, where his sleeve had ridden up slightly to reveal the edge of what looked like a very expensive timepiece. Zara, he started, then stopped. I'm not angry, Zara said. But I need to know the truth. Are you the one who's been helping me? Instead of answering, Ethan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. It wasn't the old, cracked phone that someone in his apparent situation would carry. It was the newest model in perfect condition. I have to make a call, he said, dialing a number from memory. Frank, it's me, he said when someone answered. The girl working the weekend cleaning shift. Yes, Zara, she's asking questions. No, don't do anything yet. I'll handle it. Zara's heart was pounding as she listened to the conversation. Frank from building security. The building where she had found all those clues about her life. When Ethan hung up, he looked at her with an expression that was part guilt, part fear, and part something that might have been relief. You know Frank, Zara said. It wasn't a question. Yes. And you know about the cleaning job at Cross Industries? Yes. Because you arranged it. Ethan nodded slowly, unable to meet her eyes. Who are you? Zara whispered. I'm someone who made a very big mistake, Ethan said. And I'm someone who fell in love with the most amazing woman I've ever met. Love. He had said love. Despite all her confusion and the growing sense that her entire recent life had been manipulated, Zara felt her heart skip a beat at those words. Tell me everything, she said. Please. I need to understand. Ethan looked around the busy street, where people were walking past them on their way to work, completely unaware of the life-changing conversation happening on the bench by the coffee shop. Not here, he said. Tonight, after your shift at the diner. Meet me at the park across from Mike's place. I'll tell you everything, I promise. How do I know you'll tell me the truth? Because I care about you too much to keep lying, Ethan said. And because you deserve to know who you've been so kind to. Zara stood up, her mind spinning with questions and possibilities. If you've been lying about everything, how do I know you really care about me? Because, Ethan said, looking directly into her eyes, I've never met anyone who would give their last $3 to a stranger. I've never met anyone who would share their lunch when they don't know where their next meal is coming from. I've never met anyone with your heart, Zara. And that's not something I could fake or manipulate. As Zara walked into the coffee shop to start her shift, she realized that her life was about to change completely. Tonight, she would finally learn the truth about Ethan Cross and why a disabled homeless man had the power to arrange jobs and give away money like he owned the world. All day, Zara could barely concentrate on her work. During her coffee shop shift, she kept glancing out the window at Ethan, who seemed more nervous than usual. He was checking his phone constantly and kept looking around as if he was expecting someone. At the cleaning company, Zara asked Mr. Davis more questions about the Cross Industries job. The client who requested me specifically, she said. Can you tell me their name? Let me check the paperwork, Mr. Davis said, flipping through a folder. Here it is. The request came from, that's funny. What's funny? It just says E. Cross. No first name, no title. And the payment came from a company credit card, not a personal check. Usually when someone requests a specific cleaner, it's more personal than that. E. Cross. Ethan Cross. It was all starting to make sense, but Zara still didn't understand how or why. That evening at the diner, Zara was distracted and made several mistakes. She brought the wrong order to table 3, forgot to refill coffee at table 7, and dropped a plate of food that she had to pay for out of her tips. You okay, honey? Asked Sarah, the other waitress. You seem somewhere else tonight. Just tired, Zara said, but she was actually more alert than she had been in weeks. Every nerve in her body was focused on getting through her shift so she could finally get answers. At 9:30 p.m., 15 minutes before the end of her shift, Zara looked out the diner window toward the park across the street. She expected to see Ethan waiting in his wheelchair, but the park was empty. Maybe he had changed his mind. Maybe he had decided that keeping his secret was more important than telling her the truth. Zara felt a mixture of disappointment and relief. Part of her wanted answers, but another part of her was afraid of what those answers might mean. At 10 p.m., she clocked out and walked slowly toward the park. It was dark, but the streetlights provided enough illumination to see that no one was there. Zara sat down on a bench and waited, checking her phone for the time every few minutes. At 10:15, she was about to give up when she heard footsteps approaching from the street. But when she looked up, the person walking toward her wasn't in a wheelchair. It was Ethan, walking normally on both legs, carrying his wheelchair like it weighed nothing. Zara's mouth fell open as she watched him approach. He was taller than she had realized, probably over 6 feet. His leg that had been injured moved perfectly normally. The man she had been giving money and food to for weeks had been lying about his most basic physical condition. I can explain, Ethan said, stopping about 10 feet away from her bench. You can walk, Zara said, her voice barely a whisper. Yes. You're not disabled. No. And you're not homeless. No. Zara stood up from the bench, her legs feeling shaky. Then who are you? My name really is Ethan Cross, he said, setting the wheelchair down and taking a step closer. And I'm the CEO of Cross Industries. Even though she had started to suspect this, hearing him say it out loud was like being hit by lightning. The homeless man she had been helping was actually one of the wealthiest people in the city. Why? Was all she could manage to ask. Because I needed to know, Ethan said. I needed to know if there were still good people in the world. Real people. People who would help someone without expecting anything in return. So this was all a test? Zara felt anger rising in her chest. My kindness was some kind of experiment for you? No, it started that way, but it became something completely different, Ethan said quickly. Zara, please let me explain everything. Start talking, Zara said, crossing her arms. 6 months ago, I found out that my fiancé was only marrying me for my money, Ethan began. I hired a private investigator and learned that she had been planning to divorce me immediately after the wedding and take half of everything I owned. When I confronted her, she laughed and said that all women would do the same thing. She said that rich men could never trust anyone because money corrupted every relationship. Zara felt some of her anger soften into sympathy, but she kept her arms crossed. I became obsessed with the idea that she was right, Ethan continued. That money made it impossible to know who really cared about me as a person. So I decided to test it. I started disguising myself as a homeless person in different parts of the city, just to see how people would treat me when they thought I had nothing to offer them. And most people ignored you, Zara guessed. Most people walked past like I was invisible. Some people gave me money but looked disgusted while they did it. A few people were actively cruel, telling me to get a job or stop being lazy. But then you met me. Then I met you, Ethan said, his voice becoming softer. And you changed everything I thought I knew about people. Zara wanted to stay angry, but she could hear the sincerity in his voice. Still, she had been deceived for weeks. So you decided to help me because I passed your test? She asked. I decided to help you because you gave me your last $3 and your lunch when you were struggling to keep a roof over your grandmother's head, Ethan said. I decided to help you because you treated me like a human being instead of a problem to be solved. I decided to help you because you have the most beautiful heart I've ever encountered. And you decided to lie to me because? Because I was falling in love with you and I was terrified that if you knew the truth, you would only see my money instead of me. Those words hung in the air between them. Well, he had said it again, and this time Zara could see in his eyes that he meant it. I need time to think, Zara said finally. This is all too much. I understand, Ethan said. But Zara, please know that every feeling I have for you is real. The money, the deception, the wheelchair, all of that was fake. But my feelings for you are the most real thing in my life. As Zara walked away from the park, her mind was spinning with confusion, anger, hurt, and something that might have been love. The man she had been falling for was both exactly who she thought he was and completely different from who she thought he was. And tomorrow she would have to decide what to do with the truth. Zara barely slept that night. She lay in the small studio apartment she and her grandmother now shared, staring at the ceiling and trying to process everything Ethan had told her. Every few minutes, her emotions would shift from anger to confusion to hurt to something that felt dangerously like love. You're awake, aren't you, baby girl? Her grandmother's voice came softly from the other bed. I'm sorry if I woke you up, Grandma. You didn't wake me. I can tell when something's bothering you. Want to talk about it? Zara considered telling her grandmother everything, but she didn't know how to explain the situation without sounding crazy. How do you tell someone that the homeless man you've been helping is actually a millionaire who's been secretly improving your life? There's this man, Zara began carefully. I thought I knew who he was, but it turns out he's been lying about some important things. Do you care about him? I think I do. But I don't know if I can trust him. What does your heart tell you? Her grandmother asked. That's the problem. My heart says one thing but my brain says something completely different. Her grandmother was quiet for a moment. You know, baby girl, people lie for lots of different reasons. Some people lie to hurt others and some people lie to protect themselves. The question is, what kind of person is he underneath the lies? That was exactly what Zara needed to figure out. The next morning, instead of going straight to the coffee shop, Zara decided to do some investigating of her own. She took an earlier bus downtown and went to the public library, where she could use the computers for free. She searched for Ethan Cross, CEO Cross Industries, and found hundreds of results. Articles about business deals, charity donations, company expansions. Photos of a man in expensive suits at corporate events. The same face she had been looking at for weeks, but cleaned up and confident instead of tired and desperate. One article from 6 months ago caught her attention. Cross Industries CEO calls off wedding, cites personal reasons. The article didn't give details, but it confirmed that Ethan had been engaged recently. Another article was more revealing. Young CEO known for anonymous charity work. It described how Ethan Cross had donated millions of dollars to homeless shelters, job training programs and community centers, but always insisted on keeping his contributions anonymous. Community centers. just like the ones Zara had dreamed of opening. She found more articles about cross-industries employee benefits, college tuition for workers' children, healthcare programs for part-time employees, profit-sharing bonuses. Everything Frank the security guard had told her was true. The picture that emerged was of a man who cared deeply about helping people, especially people who were struggling financially. But it was also the picture of someone who was very private and kept his charitable work secret. Zara printed out several articles and walked across industries. She stood across the street from the gleaming tower, watching people in business suits hurry in and out of the revolving doors. Somewhere in that building was Ethan's real life, his real office, his real world. She thought about Frank's description of the CEO's office on the 35th floor. Like a palace, he had said. What must it be like to live with that kind of wealth and power? And what must it be like to give it all up, even temporarily, to sit on a sidewalk and beg for money? "Excuse me," she said to a woman leaving the building. "Do you work for Cross Industries?" "Yes," the woman said, checking her watch. "Can I help you? What's Mr. Cross like as a boss?" The woman smiled immediately. "He's wonderful. Very fair, very generous. He really cares about his employees. Why do you ask?" "I'm considering applying for a job here." "You should. It's a great company to work for. Mr. Cross started from nothing, you know. His parents died when he was young and he built this whole company from scratch. I think that's why he understands what it's like to struggle." Another piece of the puzzle. Ethan really had lost his parents just like she had. Maybe that was why he had connected with her story so deeply. Zara spent the afternoon walking around the city, thinking about everything she had learned. By the time she had to report for her evening shift at the diner, she had made a decision. She was going to give Ethan a chance to explain himself fully. But she was also going to test him just like he had tested her. That evening, she called the main number for Cross Industries from the diner's phone. "Cross Industries, how may I direct your call?" "I'd like to speak with Mr. Cross, please." "May I ask who's calling?" "Tell him it's Zara Williams." There was a pause. "Please hold." Less than 30 seconds later, Ethan's voice came on the line. "Zara? Are you okay? What's wrong?" His immediate concern for her welfare touched her heart, despite her resolve to stay objective. "I want to meet you," she said. "The real you. In your real office." "Are you sure?" "Tomorrow after my coffee shop shift. 11:30 a.m. "I'll have Frank bring you up," Ethan said. "Zara?" "Yes. Thank you for giving me a chance." As Zara hung up the phone, she realized that tomorrow would change everything. She was about to see Ethan's real world, and he was about to see whether she could accept the man behind the deception. The next morning, Zara told Mrs. Peterson she needed to leave work a few minutes early for a doctor's appointment. It wasn't exactly a lie, she felt like she needed to diagnose what was wrong with her heart. As she walked toward Cross Industries, Zara noticed that Ethan wasn't in his usual spot outside the coffee shop. For weeks he had been there every morning without fail. His absence felt strange and significant. Frank was waiting for her in the lobby of Cross Industries, just as Ethan had promised. "Miss Williams," he said, tipping his security cap. "Mr. Cross is expecting you." The elevator ride to the 35th floor felt endless. Zara's stomach was filled with butterflies, and she kept smoothing down her coffee shop uniform, suddenly aware of how out of place she looked in this elegant building. "Don't be nervous," Frank said kindly. "He's still the same man you've been talking to every morning." "Is he?" Zara asked. "Because it feels like everything I thought I knew about him was a lie." "The important things weren't lies," Frank said as the elevator doors opened. "His feelings for you, his respect for your character, his admiration for your kindness, all of that is real." Frank led her down a hallway lined with expensive artwork to a set of double doors marked E. Cross, Chief Executive Officer. "Good luck," Frank said, knocking on the door. "Come in," came Ethan's voice from inside. Zara took a deep breath and walked into the most beautiful office she had ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the entire city. The furniture was elegant but comfortable. Fresh flowers filled the room with a gentle fragrance. And behind a massive desk made of dark wood sat Ethan, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit instead of the worn clothes she was used to seeing him in. He looked like he belonged in this world of power and money, but when he saw her, his face lit up with the same gentle smile she had come to know. "Thank you for coming," he said, standing up and walking around the desk toward her. Zara looked around the office, taking in every detail. On one wall was a large photograph of a homeless shelter. On another was a framed article about community development programs. His desk had a small stack of resumes marked Second Chance Hiring Program. This is who you really are, Zara said. This is my job, Ethan said. But who I really am is the person you met outside the coffee shop. Someone who was lost and looking for meaning. Someone who found it when he met you. Don't, Zara said, holding up her hand. Don't make this about me. This is about you lying to me for weeks. This is about you manipulating my life without my knowledge or consent. You're right, Ethan said, sitting down on the edge of his desk. And I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know how sorry I am. Why should I believe anything you say now? Zara asked. How do I know this isn't just another performance? Because I'm going to give you something that proves how I really feel about you, Ethan said, reaching into his desk drawer. He pulled out a legal document and handed it to her. Zara looked at the heading, Irrevocable Trust for Community Development Beneficiary, Zara Williams. What is this? She asked, scanning the pages. It's a trust fund worth $5 million, Ethan said. For you to start the community center you dreamed about. The money is yours whether you ever speak to me again or not. Zara's hands were shaking as she read the document. $5 million? You told me about your dream to help people get job training and support. This money will make that dream possible. I can't accept this, Zara said, trying to hand the papers back to him. It's not a gift with strings attached, Ethan said, not taking the document. It's not conditional on your forgiveness or your feelings for me. It's yours because you deserve it and because the world needs what you want to create. Zara sat down heavily in one of the chairs facing his desk. $5 million. More money than she had ever imagined having. Enough to change not just her life but the lives of hundreds of other people. This is too much, she said. For me it's a tax write-off, Ethan said. For you, it's a chance to help people the way you helped me. How did I help you? You were never really homeless or disabled. You helped me remember that good people exist, Ethan said, moving to sit in the chair next to hers. You helped me understand that kindness isn't motivated by what someone can give you in return. You helped me find hope again. And then you lied to me about who you were. Yes. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Zara looked out the window at the city spread below them. Somewhere down there was her grandmother, probably taking her afternoon nap in their tiny studio apartment. Somewhere down there were people like she used to be, working multiple jobs, struggling to pay rent, feeling invisible and forgotten. Why are you really giving me this money? She asked. Because I love you, Ethan said simply. And because I want you to have the life you deserve, whether that life includes me or not. You can't buy love, Ethan. I'm not trying to. If I were trying to buy your love, I would have revealed who I was weeks ago and impressed you with expensive gifts. Instead, I fell in love with you while pretending to be someone who had nothing to offer. Zara looked at him carefully, searching his face for signs of deception or manipulation. But all she saw was sincerity, vulnerability, and something that looked like genuine love. I need time, she said finally. This is all too much to process. Take all the time you need, Ethan said. The trust is yours regardless. And Zara? Yes. I won't be outside the coffee shop anymore. I won't contact you or try to influence your decision. When you're ready to talk, you know where to find me. As Zara left the office with the trust documents in her hands, she realized that everything in her life had just changed. She had the power to fulfill her dreams and help countless people. But she also had to decide whether she could forgive the man who had made it possible. For 2 weeks, Zara didn't see or speak to Ethan. True to his word, he wasn't outside the coffee shop in the mornings. She found herself looking for him anyway, missing their conversations more than she wanted to admit. The trust documents sat on her small kitchen table, untouched. $5 million that could change everything, but Zara couldn't bring herself to take the first steps to access the money. It felt too connected to her confused feelings about Ethan. Her grandmother noticed her mood immediately. You're moping around like a sad puppy, she said one evening as they ate dinner together. What happened with that man you were telling me about? This time, Zara told her grandmother everything. The weeks of thinking Ethan was homeless, the mysterious help they had received, the revelation about his true identity, and the trust fund that was now legally hers. Her grandmother listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or raising her eyebrows at particularly surprising details. So let me understand this, her grandmother said when Zara finished. This man fell in love with your character when he thought he was getting nothing in return. He secretly helped improve our lives without expecting credit or gratitude. He gave you enough money to achieve your dreams with no strings attached. And he respected your need for space when you asked for it. Yes, but he lied to me about who he was. Baby girl, did he lie to you about his feelings? No, I don't think so. Did he lie to you about your character and your worth? No. Did he lie to you about wanting to help people and make the world better? Zara thought about the articles she had read, about Frank's description of Ethan as a boss, about the homeless shelter photo in his office. No, she admitted. Then what exactly did he lie about? That he was testing whether people would be kind to someone who couldn't benefit them? That he was trying to protect his heart after being hurt by someone who only wanted his money? When her grandmother put it that way, Ethan's deception sounded less like manipulation and more like self-protection. I'm scared, Grandma, Zara said. What if he gets tired of me? What if I'm not sophisticated enough for his world? What if this is all some kind of mistake? What if the sun doesn't rise tomorrow? Her grandmother replied. Baby girl, you can't live your life based on what might go wrong. You have to live it based on what feels right. What feels right? You tell me. When you think about never seeing this man again, how does that make you feel? Zara considered the question honestly. Sad. Empty. Like I'm missing something important. And when you think about seeing him again? Scared but also excited. Happy. Like maybe everything will be okay. Then there's your answer. That weekend, Zara made two important decisions. First, she contacted the lawyer listed on the trust documents and began the process of setting up her community center. The money was hers and people needed help. Her personal confusion about Ethan shouldn't prevent her from doing good in the world. Second, she decided to take a chance on love. Monday morning, instead of going to her coffee shop job, Zara took the bus downtown to Cross Industries. She had called in sick to work, which made her feel guilty, but some things were more important than perfect attendance. Frank smiled when he saw her in the lobby. He's been miserable without you, Frank said as they rode the elevator up. Working 18-hour days, barely eating. I was starting to worry about him. Has he really not tried to contact me? Not once. He said he wanted to respect your space even if it killed him. Zara knocked on Ethan's office door and heard his voice call for her to come in. When she walked into the office, Ethan looked up from his computer with surprise and hope. He looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well, but his face lit up when he saw her. Zara, he said, standing up quickly. Is everything okay? I've been thinking, she said, walking toward his desk. And I realized that you did lie to me about some things. But you also told me the truth about the most important things. What truth is that? That you care about people who are struggling. That you believe in using your advantages to help others. That you value kindness and character over money and status. Ethan nodded, not daring to speak. And you told me the truth about your feelings, Zara continued. I can see it in the way you look at me. I could see it even when I thought you were homeless. Zara, Let me finish, she said, holding up her hand. I also realized that I fell in love with you before I knew about any of this. I fell in love with the man who worried about my safety, who listened to my dreams, who treated me like I mattered. You fell in love with me? Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper. Yes. And that man is still here, isn't he? He's just wearing a nicer suit now. Ethan walked around his desk and stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the hope and love in his eyes. I love you, Zara Williams, he said. I love your kindness, your strength, your dreams, your heart. I love the way you see the best in people. I love the way you make me want to be a better man. I love you too, Ethan Cross, Zara said. The real you. All of you. When he kissed her, Zara felt like all the pieces of her life finally clicked into place. This was right. This was real. This was the love she had dreamed about but never thought she would find. So what happens now? Ethan asked when they finally broke apart. Now we build something beautiful together, Zara said. I'm going to start that community center, and you're going to help me make it amazing. Are you sure you want me involved? It's your dream. It's our dream now, Zara said. We're going to help people the way you helped me. With love, with respect, and with the understanding that everyone deserves a chance. 6 months later, the Williams Cross Community Center opened its doors in the heart of the city. It offered job training, resume help, financial counseling, and support services for anyone who needed them. The staff included former homeless individuals, single parents, and others who had experienced hardship and wanted to help others. And 1 year after that, Ethan Cross married Zara Williams in a small ceremony at the community center, surrounded by the people whose lives they had helped change together. During his wedding speech, Ethan said, "They say that love finds you when you least expect it. But I think love finds you when you're finally ready to see what really matters. Zara taught me that what matters isn't what you have, but what you're willing to give." She taught me that kindness is the most valuable currency in the world. And she taught me that the best way to test someone's character isn't to take away what they have, but to see what they do when they think no one is watching. Zara's grandmother, who had become like a mother to Ethan as well, cried happy tears as she watched her granddaughter dance with the man who had learned to love her exactly as she was. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with the smallest acts of kindness. And sometimes those acts of kindness change not just one life but two lives, and then countless other lives as the kindness spreads throughout the world. Zara had given a homeless man $3 and a peanut butter sandwich. In return, she had received not just wealth but love, purpose, and the chance to make her dreams come true. But the greatest gift of all was learning that real love, the kind that lasts forever, is built on seeing and accepting each other's true hearts, no matter what circumstances might temporarily disguise them.